Well, hello again. Welcome to lab 2. Today's lab is for asphalt aggregate preparation and actually the asphalt biscuits. We're going to be doing two samples, the Superpave sample and the Marshall sample. The Superpave sample will be 4.7 kilogram in aggregate weight and will weigh out 5% of the 4.7 kilogram for binder weight. And for the Marshall sample, same thing, 1.2 kilograms for the total aggregate weight and 5% of asphalt binder sample from the aggregates. We're going to be using 5 different materials. We're going to be using 9mm coarse aggregates, then 12.5 coarse aggregates, then manufacturing fines, sand, masonry sand, and mulch. And we're going to be using these materials and dividing them, taking 20% each from the total weight of the aggregates. So let's start with the Superpave sample. I have already 940 grams weighed out. That's a fifth of the total of the Superpave. I have 940 grams weighed out from the mulch. And we're going to go now for 940 grams of sand. Alright, so let's go to the scale. And tear it and add 940 grams. So we're going to take manufacturing fines, tear our scale again just to keep it simple for us to weigh each aggregate. For the 12.5mm aggregates, we'll tear the scale again. Alright. And another 940 grams. And lastly, we'll go for our 19mm. Excuse me. And the 19mm aggregates are our largest aggregates in the batch. We have a fifth of each aggregate. We have a total weight of 4.7 kilograms. And this is what we're going to use to do the Superpave sample. We're going to fry these aggregates, make sure they're oven dry, and put them at 110 degrees Celsius. Usually it's kept for 24 hours, but if you could overheat the aggregates a bit more, you could do it quicker. We just need to release all the moisture from these aggregates. We're going to do the same for the Marshall samples now, and we're going to weigh out 240 grams of each, so that's 1.2 kilograms divided by 5. So again, we're going to do the same process. Tear the hole. Alright, so we're just adding our final aggregate, which is the 19mm coarse aggregates. And we're adding 240 grams. This is a fifth of the 1.2 kilograms. Okay, so this is our batch for the Marshall sample, and we're going to also be frying these aggregates at 110 degrees Celsius. Hello there. So now that we have our aggregates fried, and we had a couple of samples prepared yesterday because you're supposed to leave it for 110 for 24 hours. So we're gonna take the Superpave sample first. And we're gonna add the asphalt binder. Now make sure to wear oven gloves because everything is extremely hot. What you do here is you just mix the aggregates a bit and then make a center hole so that we could pour the asphalt and mixing could be easier. This way we could take the aggregates from the side and scoop it to the center. Alright, so now we'll pour the required weight. And for the Superpave sample, 5% binder of that weight is 235 grams. Okay, so we have everything tiered here. Make sure you tear. And also have a side plate just for excess running asphalt binder. We don't want extra binder. And again, distribute our aggregates to make a hole in the center. And we're gonna add 235 grams. Make sure you have the side plate for extra asphalt because we have to cut it off once we have our required asphalt binder. Okay. So we now have a hot plate set at 160 degrees Celsius. Please don't go over 175 because the binder degrades after that temperature. And now we have the asphalt in the center of the bowl. So let us start mixing all the components round-wise and make sure you cover all of the aggregates. So make sure to coat all the aggregates with asphalt binder, and every aggregate should be black. So all of the sand should be darker, and all of the coarse aggregates should be coated. Now for mixing and compacting temperatures, the mixing temperature should range between 155 degrees Celsius to 165. And your compaction temperature shouldn't go below 135 degrees. And basically you fold the aggregates in the center. Have all the aggregates coated, all the stones coated. So now we'll get the hot mold from the oven. Be careful now, this is heavy and hot. We'll just put it aside, lock up the doors, and take it outside to the mixing bowl. So while the plate is hot and the mold is hot, we'll place one paper just at the bottom and make sure it's flat. Alright, now all of our asphalt binder and binded aggregates are in the mold. Now, a quick step here is to do a hill in the center of the mold, because during compaction, you want all the spaces to fall in the right places. So we'll put a paper on top of the hill we made. Now we have the mold prepared. We're just gonna keep it on the hot plate until we set up the Superpave gyratory compactor. Now for the Superpave, you turn it on from the left side. because the mold is gonna go inside the machine, you need to take off the cap. So we can put it back on once the mold is inside. Just keep it on the side here. You press start to initiate your test, and then you set your number of gyrations. Now we have the number of gyrations set to 160, and our mold diameter is 150 millimeters or 6 inches, and our mold height should, our specimen height should be 115 millimeter plus or minus 1. Now, the next step is to take the Superpave mold while it's hot and place it inside the Superpave. Make sure you lock the disc inside. You lock the top disc. So the top goes on. You twist in. Make sure everything's locked. Once everything is set into the machine, we press start. So with every gyration, or every 10 gyrations, you record the height of the sample. So still, 0 gyrations occurred, and this is because the ram is just placing on top of the mold. Once the gyrations start, every 10 gyrations, you record the height at where the sample is. So at 10 gyrations, the height of the sample is 121.5 millimeters.
Small.
We're halfway there. Now the angle of gyration is 1.25 degrees sharp. So you could see the mold getting angled at 1.25 degrees and rotating along the ram. Alright, compaction is complete. It says time remaining, please wait 5 minutes, 5 seconds. Alright, now it's retracting the ram. And we'll have to retract the sample from the mold. So this is quite a beauty. First things first, we remove the mold top. The mold top, just set it aside. Now next joyful thing is to extract the sample. So we just press up and keep pressing up. If our compaction temperature is correct and our mixing temperature is correct, sample should be easily extruded. To avoid the sample sticking to the side walls of the mold, make sure to oil it with lubricant or oil, WD-40. Now because our sample is hot, it might crumple a bit, so we need to leave it aside. Once our sample is completely extracted, we need to leave it, let it cool down until it cools, then We take it to a water bath. So we take our sample. Now, a couple of steps are remaining. We're gonna weigh our sample. Make sure to tear the scale. So our sample is 4.90 kilograms, and you make sure you measure your weight to the nearest 0.1 gram. And what we should be doing next is weigh the sample under water to calculate the bulk density, and then place it in a curing bath set at 24 degrees Celsius. And that's for Superpave. Now let's go to Marshall. Now for our Marshall sample. So we're gonna take out the 1.2 kilograms that we prepared. We're gonna put 5% of the asphalt binder inside. So 5% of 1.2 kilograms would roughly be 60 grams, which is 60 grams. We're gonna tear the scale. Make sure we have our side plate. And let's pour some aggregate in the center. Go. Okay, so we'll put 60 grams of binder. Mix it on the hot plate. And make sure to coat all of the aggregates. Sand is easy to coat, but the coarse aggregates aren't. So a quick step for that, you could pour the asphalt binder on the coarse aggregate first, and then pour the sand later, because it's easy to coat. We have almost all of our aggregates darkened. Just go a bit more. Now we're going to get our Marshall hammer mold. I'm going to put 2 sheets of paper, one below, in the mold, making sure it's flat down. We're going to be pouring our mixed asphalt into the mold. Now that all of our aggregates and binder are combined inside, we make a hill in the center. This is, again, it makes it easy to compact. And we put a paper on top. Okay. Clamp it into the machine. Make sure it's well clamped. Now we're going to take our Marshall hammer. And place it inside the mold. Make sure that the hammer is on the rail. Put the key in, lock it inside. Lock in the weight. Reset our timer to 0. And we start. So after 50 hits, we're gonna flip our sample to the other side and do 50 more. So you compact each side 50 times. Now because the mold has a collar and a neck, a base and a collar, You just remove the color. You flip the base. Position it. Add the color again. Lock the mold in place. Add the hammer. Make sure the hammer is on the rail. Plug in the key and set it for 50 more contacts. Take the base of our mold, place it into the extractor. And jack up the mold, making sure to be fine when jacking the asphalt sample up. Now again, see here, the edge is getting bent. Two reasons. One, the mold is not lubricated from the inside. And two, because the asphalt sample is too hot. So usually let the sample cool for a couple of minutes before grabbing it, because it might just crack. Like so. Next step is to take your sample and weigh it. The weight of the sample is the weight of the aggregates plus the weight of the binder, which is 1.3. We might have lost some aggregates in the way, but you record the diameter at 3 different locations. You record the specimen thickness at 4 different locations and take the average. You weigh your sample on a dry scale, you weigh your sample under water, and then you place it in the water bath at 24 degrees Celsius for 30 minutes before you start the Marshall stability and flow tests.